in a land far, far away in a place called Madagascar. There was a furry little lemur named Lorenzo. Lorenzo is a kind of lemur called a red ruffed lemur, with reddish-brown hair and a black tail. Lorenzo is a very curious lemur, who questions nearly everything he is told. One day a bunch of other lemurs were crowded around a wise, older lemur that lives in the same village. Lorenzo, naturally curious, made his way over to the group to see what all of the commotion was about. To Lorenzo's surprise, the older lemur was telling a tale of a giant lemur the size of a gorilla, that lived long, long ago. Lorenzo had never heard of a lemur so big before. Upon hearing of this supposed ancient lemur, Lorenzo wanted to know if he could be related to such a majestic creature. With nothing but free time on his hands, Lorenzo came up with a plan to answer his question. He would set out on a journey over the mountains to get to the coast, where the remains were said to be. Before embarking on his journey, Lorenzo needed to take the climate into account. He knew that if he was going to make it all the way to southwestern coast of Madagascar, where this fossil of the giant lemur that once lived was supposedly found, he was going to have to make it over a treacherous mountain range. Lorenzo had never been beyond his village before. He was used to a tropical, warm climate where rain is plenty and the air is moist. However, Lorenzo was warned by one of the oldest lemurs in his village that not everywhere on Madagascar had the same climate, and that he needed to be prepared for different kinds of weather. Not only was weather a concern, but Lorenzo was told to watch out for boa constrictors and eagles, who wanted to make him their dinner. Lorenzo, not knowing what to expect, decided the risk was worth taking to find out if he was indeed related to this ancient lemur. On the first day of Lorenzo's journey up the mountain, he noted that there was a lot of moisture in the air and the temperature was comfortable. He could feel the cool breeze from the ocean blowing through his fur. Knowing that he would need a snack soon, Lorenzo picked some of the ripest fruits he could find and stashed them in his pack. Lorenzo leapt through the trees up the mountain until it began to get dark out, when he found a good tree to sleep in for the night. He made a lot of progress that day, making it halfway up the mountain. When settling in for the night, he noticed it felt a little colder here than it had at the bottom of the mountain. However, the amount of rain hadn't changed all that much. Lorenzo woke to the sound of birds chirping, and decided after picking a couple of fruits that it was time to begin traveling again. It was still chilly and drizzling rain. About halfway through his day, Lorenzo got caught in a heavy rain. He was soaking wet. He found a big leaf, stopped, and took shelter as the rain poured. He must have reached 3/4 of the way up on the windward side of the mountain. He knew he had only a little way to go until he would be at the top. Deciding he would have to brave the rain, he began his climb once again. Upon reaching the top of the mountain, Lorenzo was freezing cold. Being from a moderate climate by the ocean, he wasn't used to these cold temperatures and needed to find big leaves to wrap himself in to stay warm. There he settled in to rest for the night. When Lorenzo woke from his chilly night of sleep in the tree, he was ready to escape the cold and start his descent down the mountain. Lorenzo once again picks a couple of fruits from the nearest tree and stores them in his pack for later. After about an hour of climbing down the mountain, Lorenzo encounters a small bird who seems friendly. Lorenzo recognizes this bird as one of the ones who usually eats pesky insects out of their fur at home. He decides to strike up a conversation with the bird to see if he knows the right direction to head toward the ancient lemur's remains. The bird, who Lorenzo finds out likes to be called Bruce to make up for his small size, doesn't know which direction to travel, but asks Lorenzo if he has any pesky insects in his fur that he could eat. Bruce missed dinner the night before, and is very hungry. Lorenzo has been scratching at these insects for a while now and tells Bruce he would love for him to eat the bugs. Bruce hops onto Lorenzo's back and begins to eat them. Lorenzo and Bruce continue their travel down the mountain, chatting all along the way. About 2 hours later, Bruce and Lorenzo notice the air feels a little warmer and a little drier than it did at the top. In the middle of their discussion about this change in the weather, Lorenzo realizes there's a spot on his back that's really starting to annoy him. It hurts a little, and when he investigates a little more, he realizes a tick has burrowed into his back. Lorenzo is being bothered by this tick, and together he and Bruce try to get him out. After trying for quite some time, they give up and decide to handle the problem once they get to the bottom of the mountain. The tick continues to get his food from Lorenzo all the way down the mountain, and Lorenzo is starting to get more and more irritated by the tick. Lorenzo and Bruce chat all about their families, their favorite foods, and even their crushes along the way, and end up becoming great friends. It turns out they even both like to eat the same fruits. Before they realize it, they've reached the bottom of the mountain. Lorenzo and Bruce observe the air is much drier here and even a little warmer than it was in Lorenzo's home village on the other side of the mountain.